Hey, want to see something insane? This isn't some cheat, this isn't a hack, this is all legal within the boundaries of the game, all done by a talented player and YouTuber named Dirge. So, what just happened? How did that boss just lose all its HP like it was a roulette in Vegas? I'm glad you asked. First, let's set up some context. This is Megaman Battle Network, but I'm sure you already knew that from the title of the video. The Battle Network series is a spin-off of the classic Mega Man games where instead of designing robotics, artificial intelligence companions known as NetNavis and the internet became commonplace. Considering how things are nowadays, it feels almost prophetic. Unlike other games in the series, Battle Network distinguishes itself as a turn-based card battler RPG. On the internet, Mega Man traverses through it much like a standard JRPG. You will be hit by random encounters where the monsters are viruses that you'll have to delete. Mega Man is placed in a 3x3 grid as do the viruses. There's a few rules he'll need to follow. First, he can't cross over to the enemy's grid, only his own colored grids. Second, he can perform a basic attack using his Mega Buster or charge it for a stronger variant much like the other Mega Man games. At the start of a turn, you have the option of selecting battle chips, which is the equivalent of casting spells. However, you can't just select whatever battle chip you want. See, you can't select more than one battle chip unless they're either a copy of that chip or they follow the same letter code. These letter codes serve as a balancing measure that promotes good deck building choices. Each chip has several different codes, and building your deck, known as a folder, is key to success. There's also the special asterisk code, which allows it to be used with any chip regardless of the conditions previously mentioned. Altogether, it creates a fluid yet dynamic system that rewards the player for putting together a strong folder. So, now that we got the basics out of the way, let's talk about that clip. Here, Dirge is facing off against Blastman RV, who is the strongest form of this boss. He instantly goes into Beast Out, which is one of Mega Man's premier transformations in Battle Network 6. I'll go more into that during the analysis. His chip order is sus: Rock Cube, Voodoo Doll, Lance, and Colonel Army. First, let's go over Beast Out. In Battle Network 6, depending on the version you select, Mega Man can access this transformation and become either Gregar Mega Man or Falzar Mega Man. Gregar Mega Man focuses on sheer raw power. His Mega Buster becomes a rapid-firing machine gun, which feels as good as it sounds. He gains the following abilities: Super Armor, which prevents him from flinching when he takes damage, the ability to add plus 30 damage to non-elemental chips that don't freeze time, and the ability to have these non-elemental chips allow him to lock on to enemies, warping next to them to perform the attack. The most important part for this chip is the plus 30 damage, so keep that in mind. Now, back to the clip. Dirge sets up a rock cube in front of him. If you're wondering why Mega Man jumps back an additional space instead of one, it's because he's bugged. If you look at the top left, you'll see something known as an emotion window. Mega Man has a variety of emotions that can affect his gameplay. For now, he's in a normal state, but notice how it's glitching. That's because he has a bug, which is caused by fiddling with another mechanic, the Navi Customizer, but we'll get into that later. Next, he throws the Voodoo Doll, which is meant to land here where the rock cube is. Just after doing so, he lands the Lance chip, which causes an attack on the back row. Notice how it mentions counter hit. From Battle Network 4 and onwards, if you hit an enemy with a chip just as they're about to perform their attack animation, you'll perform a counter hit. Not only will they be stunned for a brief moment, but Mega Man will enter into a full synchro emotion state. This is a powerful state that causes your next chip to deliver double its damage. It's as amazing as it sounds. Then he activates Colonel Army and immediately starts using his machine gun Mega Buster. And just like that, Blastman becomes shredded cheese. So, how on earth is all this damage possible? Let's talk about Colonel Army. This is a standard chip with 25 megabytes, meaning you can have 4 copies of it in a folder. It spawns Colonel Army soldiers for every obstacle removed on the battlefield. Each fires off 3 shots, each dealing 40 damage each. That's a total of 120 per soldier. Sounds fine so far, but let's add in that plus 30 from Gregar. Now it's 70 damage per shot, meaning it's 210 per soldier. That's almost double the damage, not bad at all. So let's do the math. Blastman's HP was an 1850 after landing the first lance. Because he's stunned, he can instantly take damage from the next chip instead of entering an invincibility frame. There's a total of 5 soldiers here, and each soldier on base with Gregar is 210 damage. With the double damage from full synchro, that's now a whopping 420 per soldier. 420 times 4 equates to 1680 damage, with the remaining 170 dealt via Buster. It's an insane combo that really highlights just how crazy Mega Man can become with the right setup. Ordinarily, it should have spawned 3 soldiers due to 3 obstacles, but for whatever reason, it spawned a total of 4. So what gives? And what was even the point of the Voodoo Doll? This is where the insanity really begins to shine. So here's what Voodoo Doll is supposed to do. Upon throwing it, it'll land on an empty panel and a poison panel spawns underneath it. The poison panel itself is non-consequential to what we're discussing. When the player attacks the doll, the screen will freeze and the opponent will take damage equal to the damage inflicted on the Voodoo Doll, consuming it. Now, from the clip, we know that Voodoo Doll technically whiffed. It didn't do anything. Or did it? You see, if you activate Colonel Army just before the Voodoo Doll lands, it will cause soldiers to be spawned on the panel underneath the doll and allows them to spawn on broken panels. Let's slow down the footage for a moment. After throwing the doll, he triggers lands for full synchro followed by Colonel Army. Note where the doll was just as that happened. Do you notice anything about it? Look at the panel it's corresponding to. Now notice what spawned on the empty panel. Isn't that just crazy? Was it fully intended game design? Probably not. But does that negate just how insane the game can be? Absolutely not. If anything, this just proves how far players will go to bully these bosses. But what about games without full synchro? Surely the older games in the series don't have nearly the same amount of combo potential. Well, let's find out. In this clip, Dirge is facing Flame Man from Battle Network 3. First, notice how the panels are ice panels. This, ordinarily, doesn't happen. Now, we can talk about the Navi Customizer, which just so happened to debut in this game. This is a special setup mechanic where you can insert these special program blocks which grants Mega Man a plethora of power-ups such as increased HP, increased buster damage, and etc. Set Ice is a program obtainable once you reach level 3 in Ground Style, a key transformation power-up in Battle Network 3. This program causes all regular panels to become ice panels at the start of battle. At the start, he selects Lance, Guts Punch, 2 copies of Metal Gel 2, and Rock Cube. He waits a bit before landing Lance, which causes these 2 candles here to be snuffed. Flame Man's gimmick is that the candles on the back will light a different color and an effect will occur. When it's green, he's invulnerable to all damage until both are put out. Once that's removed, he follows it up with a Guts Punch. Ordinarily, Guts Punch is a 1-panel range melee attack, but if you input a special command just as you hold down the button, it'll fire off a projectile version that goes across the screen. Immediately after, he uses Metal Gel 2, which spawns these Metal Gel viruses that takes any unoccupied enemy panels and forms them into his own. Once again, he does it yet one more time. Because Metal Gel 2 is a water-based attack, Flame Man takes double damage, but the panel he's on isn't taken over. Then Rock Cube is spawned in the panel separating them. Second custom screen pulls up. Now he's loading in the killer combo. The setup has been completed. The next chip loadout is Gut Straight, Discord, Gut Straight again, Bolt, and attack plus 10. He punches the Rock Cube, which causes it to be pushed to the very back line. See how Flame Man didn't take damage? He was in iframes during this time. The cube can be pushed with the power of these punching chips. Next, he uses Discord, which spawns in the 2B virus in front. Now, Discord causes enemies to be confused. What does this mean exactly? Confusion is a status that causes you to have your movement inputs be randomized. But for enemies, it causes them to stop moving and focus on attacking. He follows it up with the Gut Straight Rocket Punch. This chip's command input causes it to fire 3 punches in a row instead of just a single flying punch for a whopping 300 damage. Notice how Flame Man's outside of invincibility frames when this happens. Then, Bolt for the game-ending finish. Bolt, a stronger version of Lightning, is a special Mega Chip, a classification higher than Standard. It can only be used if Mega Man is of a certain element. In this case, he's Electric Ground Style, which clears the requirements. Bolt causes all obstacles on the field to be struck by lightning, hitting every enemy around it for the damage listed. In this case, that's 210 per obstacle. There's 4 obstacles in total as the candles count. So, doing the math, that's 210 times 4 for 840 damage. That's not nearly enough to finish it off. But that's where the ice panels come in. You see, if you hit an enemy on an ice panel with an electric attack, it deals double damage. Now, you see where I'm going with this. Now it's 420 damage per obstacle for a total of 1680, but notice how the last chip wasn't there, the attack plus 10. This chip is special in that it grants the chip before it a plus 10 damage boost. So instead, it becomes 220 times 2 to become 440 per obstacle for a grand total of 1760. And would you look at that, that's just enough for the kill. Even the older games have combos like these if you're willing to look a little deeper. I will admit, the first game doesn't have any of that whatsoever. There isn't much room for stunts and abusive iframes to do much of anything, but the series offers a lot of fun if you're willing to give it a shot. The Legacy Collection is a great way to get into the series, though on actual hardware and or emulation, that's just as fine. Heck, you could cheat in infinite money to avoid the grind if it bothers you that much. I know I would. What matters is the skill after all. I hope this has convinced you to not only try the series, but see the absolute insane design of Battle Network's gameplay. If you're looking for more gameplay analysis, presentations, and whatnot, just click the button. Help a goon out with some engagement too. With that said, I hope you all have a wonderful day and a good rest of your week. Peace.